Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
But what would happen if, for some reason, we ignore somebody unlocked 100% of the cerebral capacity?
100%?
Yes?
My congratulations. We decided to take your country to the European Union.
I'm sorry. Oh, wow. Thank you very much, all the Ukrainians and all of our country. We've been waiting for this so much time.
Ukrainians?
Yes, Ukrainians.
Oh, I'm so sorry. That's a mistake. I was calling to Montenegro.
Wie gesagt, auf europäischer Ebene reichen die Ziele bei weitem nicht. Sie reichen auch nicht auf österreichischer Ebene. Auch wenn man in Betracht zieht, dass im Bundesrat beschlossen wurde, dass sowohl das Erneuerbare Ausbaugesetz kommt, als auch die ökosoziale Steuerreform. Noch ganz kurz zur Erklärung. Das Erneuerbare Ausbaugesetz, das soll die Klimaneutralität Österreich bis ins
Daniel
Jahr
McAdams, just take a bit of a chill pill. I didn't even address the question to you. Relax. Calm down.
I don't want to relax.
No,
My country is at war.
Well, Mr. McAdams, if you are so concerned, about Ukrainians, then hang on. Mr. McAdams, if you're so concerned about, if you're so concerned about Ukraine, get off the fence and send your forces and put boots on the ground. Don't lecture us here in India, okay? I'm not going to hear your lecture. And if you have really problems, go tell go tell the U.S. President, Mr. Biden, who flashes, who flashes his fancy credentials. Don't, Mr. McAdams, tonight. Don't, Mr. McAdams, tonight play the catch for the West here. Do not do that. We have hang on. You ask those Afghans. You ask those Afghans what they have gone through falling off planes because you dumped them. You ask the African nations because you dumped them. You go ask millions and millions of Iraqi citizens because you dumped them. You people and your colonial agenda, sir, has wrecked the South, has wrecked the East, and don't sit here and lecture us. Don't sit here and lecture us, Mr. McAdams. We shut him down.
I'm not talking. It's the other guy who's talking. I haven't been able to say a word.
Yeah, absolutely. The man has gone completely ballistic. And if he feels so strongly, he should go and fight alongside Ukrainians who are being killed.
I have not, dear host, I have not said a word yet. I don't know why you're yelling at me.
No, I'm not yelling at you. I'm talking about Mr. McAdams. I'm talking about Mr. McAdams.
I am Mr. McAdams.
Oh.
I am Mr. McAdams, and I haven't said a word, so stop yelling at me.
Okay, sorry. I got that confused.
Ukrainian guy who's going nuts, okay? Not me.
Yes, I got that. That's Borden.
عاش المنقذ، عاش ابو عمر. يا بعادي يا بعادي يا بعادي يا بعادي
امرني يا غالي يا حبيبي
يا بعادي يا بعادي يا بعادي. لحظة، هذا لحظة.
انت شغال ده؟
انت خله مشغل. ليش انت؟
لا ما تشغلهوش، سكر عشان ما تكهربش.
شو تتكهربش؟
حبيبي اهو، ده حبيبي يا غالي.
सुनो अरे सुनो ओ भाइयों बहनों, अरे गोविंद जी, ए बिप्पन जी, शंकर जी और डोविल जी और रघोबा और धोनी बा, आएगा कर्नल सिंगा और जनरल सिंगा, और तुसी भी सुनो मोदी जी।
लोग मजाक उड़ाते।
अरे इंडियन एम्बेसी देखो कैसे भाग पड़ी है।
मोदी जी बेशरम है।
अफगान फौज बड़ी परेशान खड़ी है।
गालियां खाता हूं।
लड़ना आता है ना किसी से कभी लड़ी है।
पागल कुत्ता कहा।
गोद लिया जब से, आलू दिया तब से, लूट मार के सिवा सिखाया कुछ ना तब से, अफगान फौज फंस गई।
क्या बता देना?
और इंडियन एम्बेसी नस गई।
हमें कोई नहीं पूछ रहा है।
अरे इंडियन एम्बेसी देखो कैसे भाग पड़ी है।
मजदूरी कर रहा।
कुछ फौज को सिखाया इसने, कुछ नहीं उन्हें मामू बनाया इसने। हाँ भाई, बेमार 4.5 का सबक पढ़ाया इसने। हाँ जी, जो खुद भूखे फौजियों के राशन खा जाते हैं वो दूसरों को भी ऐसी ही ट्रेनिंग कराते हैं। लूट मार करना 10 गई,
खाना नहीं मिलता है
और कंधार कौंसलेट भी नस गई। अरे इंडियन एम्बेसी देखो कैसे भाग पड़ी है।
भारत ऐसे ही खाम चाटे चूटे खाकर रोते हुए गाल मलते हुए वापस आ गया है।
अब सोचो हिमाकत किसने की, इंडिया को वेलकम किसने दी।
गंगू तेली।
अरे अफगान कौम की गलती सारी अपनी थी, बिल्कुल थी। समझे थे इंडियन एयरफोर्स आएगी, भाड़े के टट्टुओं को आके बचाएगी। रजिया गुंडों में फंस गई तो इंडियन हवाई सेना भी नस गई। अरे इंडियन एम्बेसी देखो कैसे भाग पड़ी है।
ये कोई रंडी खाना है।
मोदी अपने आप को क्या समझता है?
गंदा आदमी।
इंडिया ने भी कुछ पाया, कख नहीं, बस टाइम और पैसा गवाया।
फिजूल खर्च
क्या इस बार दहशत फैलाने का सपना भुलाया। हाँ जी, खाया पिया कुछ नहीं, क्लास तोड़ा 12 आने, भागे सारे अपनी अपनी धोतियां बचाने, जब आके गले में फंस गई।
दोनों हाथ ऊपर करके पूरी ताकत से बोलिए।
तो इंडियन एम्बेसी नस गई।
Eamon, before I go, some of the media coverage of the conflict in Ukraine has been kind of off. We have reporters and pundits making some rather awful remarks about the nature of this conflict and these refugees versus, say, conflicts and refugees in the Middle East. Have a listen.
But this isn't a place, with all due respect, like Iraq or Afghanistan, that has seen conflict raging for decades. This is a relatively civilized, relatively European, I have to choose those words carefully too.
I'm sorry, it's very emotional for me because I see European people with blue eyes and blonde hair being killed, children being killed every day with Putin's missiles and his helicopters and his rockets.
Now the unthinkable has happened to them. And this is not a developing third world nation. This is Europe.
Eamon, first off, Europe has been home to some of the worst wars and worst war crimes in human history. I mean, the Holocaust. So why this surprise that bad things are happening in Europe? And second, when they say, oh, civilized cities, and in another clip, well-dressed people, and this is not the third world, they really mean white people, don't they? The reason they seem to want us to care more about Ukraine, and we should care about Ukraine, but not because they're white Europeans. That shouldn't be the reason we care about Ukraine.
Yeah, no, that's what's so disturbing in all of this. And in fact, not only that, it's trying to make an excuse why the West should get involved and embrace these refugees and help them. Listen, let's be clear. You should encourage and actually help refugees because they are fleeing a war. I don't know if you saw this. There was a op-ed today in the Telegraph. I think we have it. We'll put it up for our viewers to see. This was an op-ed in which the writer, Daniel Hannon, said that these people, the Ukrainians, they're like us. They watch Netflix. They have Instagram accounts. They read uncensored newspaper, and then goes on to say that war is no longer something visited upon impoverished and remote population. Oh no, it's happening to us here in Europe. And to your point, you're absolutely correct. Europe has had some of the worst human rights abuses and atrocities and wars in not just modern history, in all of history. Good to see you, Mahdi. Greatly appreciate it, my friend.
Jews in order to... Don't you stick things in my face.
A pro-Israeli advocate knocked a camera out of the hands of Alison Weir, president of the Council for the National Interest Foundation. The group just finished their press conference on what they call unjustifiable U.S. aid to Israel. The two sides met when the press club scheduled a pro-Israeli news conference to follow, held in the same room. The altercation illustrates heightened tensions on differing views regarding America's relationship with Israel. The Council for the National Interest Foundation wants Americans to know how much of their tax dollars are going to Israel.
$3 trillion. That's including a massive amount of direct money to Israel, then a lot of hidden costs.
CNIF alleges Israel receives so much aid and special treatment because the U.S. Congress is controlled by AIPAC, America's pro-Israeli lobby. Executive Director Philip Girardi says Israel spends a lot of money on U.S. elections.
There are many Israeli PACs, and they do give a lot of money very selectively to congressmen that they want to support.
The Council for the National Interest Foundation says many members of Congress fear if they don't always side with Israel, that they will face retaliation in their own re-election campaigns.
If a congressman crosses the Israel lobby by voting against aid for Israel or voting against some legislation that Israel favors, they very often will find that the next time they're running for office, there will be a candidate put up against them who is very well funded.
Giraldi is a former CIA counterterrorism expert. He questions why America gives aid to Israel when Israel conducts more espionage for profit against the U.S. than any other U.S.-friendly country.
They steal military technology. They steal information that is useful for telecommunications.
Retired Lieutenant Colonel Karen Kotowski works at the Pentagon and says Israel receives preferential treatment.
We do not question what the Israelis want.
Kotowski believes America is beginning to take more interest in U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East, in large part due to tough economic times. More and more Americans want to know where their hard-earned tax dollars are going.
Treating the Arab population as a whole, the Palestinian population as a whole, as an inferior race. I mean, it doesn't get stronger than this. And yet you want to be careful about your language. You're happy to correctly use the most strong and robust language to describe the crimes against humanity of Vladimir Putin, but you will not use the same strength of language when it comes to describing Israel's treatment of the Palestinians, when it is now being documented and detailed by two of the most respected human rights organisations in the world, and indeed has been alleged by dozens and dozens of non-governmental organisations, and to be honest, anybody who looks honestly at the decades of brutal, inhumane persecution of the Palestinians, successive assaults on Gaza, the annexation of their land and territory, the systematic application of apartheid rules, you don't want to even use the word apartheid. Never mind sanctions. 5 days sanctions against Putin and his thugs, 70 years of oppression by the Palestinians, and it wouldn't be, what was the word you used? It wouldn't be helpful to impose sanctions. Amnesty International are calling for Israel to be referred to the International Criminal Court for crimes against humanity. Will you support it? They are calling for targeted sanctions against Israeli officials who are perpetuating the system of apartheid, just exactly the same types of sanctions you've just initiated against Vladimir Putin. Will you support it? And I think the answer is clearly you're not going to. And then we ask the question, why? Why? With such strength of feeling, Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil and Green TD stood up one after the other, saying it was intolerable, the thuggery and the war.
It's simply not disputable. Our best friends and allies in the region, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and other Gulf states, these are the original financiers. They're sort of our little proxies who did the initial financing of these son of a bitches, who have a basic sort of a Wahhabi, Takfiri, fake Islamic perspective, which is really grotesque. It is anything but true Islam. It's our best friends and allies, including Turkey as well, who have been shuttling these son of a bitches across the border into Syria. Jordan has played its part by providing training bases so that we can train these so-called moderate rebels that don't exist and never existed in the first place. We are the ones who have carried out a policy of effectively providing air cover for ISIS over the last year and a half or so while they were growing, the biggest military in the history of the world with a coalition running around and apparently unable to do what Russia has been able to do in just a couple of months of real bombing, of really going after so-called ISIS. I mean, we are the ones who protect these son of a bitches on every level. And, you know, it's really beggars belief that there was ever any debate about this, but I'm actually really inspired by the fact that we're seeing so many different independent writers out there and bloggers and whatnot who are writing the truth about this now, which is we are ISIS. You know, in fact, I would say that ISIS stands for Israeli Secret Intelligence Services. It's a perfect acronym for who is benefiting most from ISIS, because when you look at ISIS, its real intention is to basically rip apart the Middle East so that Israel, which is all part of the greater Israel project, so that Israel can expand. That is the goal, and it's been stated on many different levels. This is not some conspiracy fucking theory. It is a reality. It has been admitted on so many different levels that it's not even possible to seriously debate this. And everything we see playing out in the Middle East right now is part of a plan to allow Israel to expand. And all of these American sons and daughters who've been off fighting in the Middle East have been fighting for the so-called Jewish state, not for American interest. How did America benefit from anything we've done? And now you get 22 American service members a day committing suicide. How fucking stupid is it that we would send America's best, its sons and daughters, off to fight these bullshit wars for the Jewish state of Israel, when back home we don't even have social services, the infrastructure's falling apart, black people are getting executed every fucking day practically. I mean, this is insane. Why would we allow this to continue? And all of this is being done because our government is owned by the Jewish state of Israel, literally. And when you see how Netanyahu has come to the U.S. Congress 3 different times and how our so-called government bends over, literally bends over and takes it up the ass for a foreign criminal, it is insane. Insane. And all the while, many Americans have been sitting there waving their stupid fucking flag and have nothing to do with their U.S. Constitution, haven't even read the damn thing. So anyway, more and more Americans do not believe in this insanity and are waking up to the reality, and I have confidence that they will do what needs to be done. And one of the best steps that could be taken is to reinstate the U.S. Constitution and arrest every single one of these fucking traitors in the U.S. Congress and in the White House. That would be a damn good step to show that there are, in fact, real patriots within the United States.
Yeah, there's that saying, if the U.S. military was trying to protect our freedom, they'd be attacking Washington, D.C., the District of Criminals. And, of course, you just brought up Israel, so here we go. You're an anti-Semite. Here comes the comments. Why don't you respond to that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm honored by these smears. I really am. First off, it's pretty ridiculous. You know, Semites are denotes people of Semitic history and cultural reality. Semitic languages are Arabic and Hebrew. I have family members who are Semitic. In fact, you know, I don't like getting into my personal life, but I have family who speak the Arabic language. They are Semites. So, in fact, my children have Semitic blood. So, very interesting that I might be accused of being anti-Semitic. I think what people mean to say is that I'm anti-Jewish. And so if people want to accuse me of being anti-Jewish, well, let me define what I mean when I talk about the Jewish state. I am talking about a Jewish state that was built on the back of an ethnic cleansing of Palestinians who had committed no crime against them during the so-called Holocaust. Why isn't it Nazi Germany that would have paid the price for the crimes committed against Jews? Why is it that Palestinians have been paying the price for an apparently Northern European Nazi crime? Why is it that we can't even talk about Jewish control of the mainstream media? Why is it that we can't talk about Larry Silverstein or Frank Lowy buying the lease on the Twin Towers when those buildings were filled with asbestos and literally worthless, in fact, a major liability, and then the buildings falling to dust within 2 months and them collecting billions in insurance? What if the owner of the World Trade Center buildings would have been a man named Mohammed of Muslim faith? Do you think we would have known of this man Mohammed of Muslim faith if he had bought the lease on the buildings just 2 months before? Why don't we talk about the Jewish Mossad agents who were caught filming the event who acknowledged on Israeli television that they were sent to film the event. Otherwise, they had foreknowledge. This is not debatable. We know this. Why don't we talk about the Jewish agents who were arrested on 9/11 and quietly deported after having failed lie detector tests, and in fact, some of whom were caught with explosives in their vans on 9/11? Why aren't we allowed to talk about the fact that our government kisses the ass of the Jewish state and provides welfare to the tune of billions every year while Americans go without social services and don't have proper education? Why is it that we can't talk about all of these things? And why is it that we can't talk about the fact that the Jewish state allows Jews from all around the world to come back to the so-called Jewish state, and yet Palestinians who have deed title to land in Palestine have no right to return there? Why is it that we can't talk about any of that stuff? I'll tell you what I have a problem with. If Jewish people believe that they are the chosen ones, if they think that they are chosen by God and all the rest of us are effectively subhumans, goy, cattle, as we are referred to in the Talmud, then I've got a big fucking problem with Judaism. If, however, Jews believe that we are all brothers and sisters in one human family and they would wish to live in harmony with the rest of us, I have no problem with a Jew like that. But I have a big problem with many people who call themselves Jews, dual nationals in the U.S. government, traitors that they are, who definitely do not support anything known to be humane or brotherly at all.
Затем наступила очередь Ирака, Ливии, Сирии. Нелегитимное использование военной силы против Ливии, извращение всех решений Совета Безопасности ООН по ливийскому вопросу привело к полному разрушению государства, к тому, что возник огромный очаг международного терроризма, к тому, что страна погрузилась в гуманитарную катастрофу, в пучину непрекращающейся до сих пор многолетней гражданской войны. Трагедия, на которую обрекли сотни тысяч, миллионы людей не только в Ливии, но и во всем этом регионе, породила массовый миграционный исход из Северной Африки и Ближнего Востока в Европу. Подобную судьбу уготовили и Сирии. Боевые действия западной коалиции на территории этой страны без согласия сирийского правительства и санкции Совета Безопасности ООН – это не что иное, как агрессия, интервенция. Однако особое место в этом ряду занимает, конечно же, вторжение в Ирак, тоже без всяких правовых оснований. В качестве предлога выбрали якобы имеющуюся у США достоверную информацию о наличии в Ираке оружия массового поражения. В доказательство этого публично, на глазах у всего мира, госсекретарь США тряс какой-то пробиркой с белым порошком, уверяя всех, что это и есть химическое оружие, разрабатываемое в Ираке. А потом оказалось, что все это подтасовка, блеф. Никакого химического оружия в Ираке нет. Невероятно, удивительно, но факт остается фактом.
هنا تفتح أبواب الشيطان ليطل برأسه بل برؤوسه مهددا بدمار لا يبقي ولا يذر. سارمات، الصاروخ العابر للقارات الذي أراد الرئيس فلاديمير بوتين من خلال دويه إعلان روسيا قوة عظمى من جديد وتغيير كل قواعد الردع الاستراتيجي بعد أن أحال الشيطان الهرم R-36 فويفودا للتقاعد، وطلب من الجيش والصناعات الفضائية التعاون لإنتاج صاروخ حديث يعمل بالوقود الجاف بدل السائل وتكون له قدرات خارقة مهما كلف الثمن. 10 سنوات من التطوير السري يتقدم بوتين إلى المنصة ليعلن الخبر بنفسه. تنشق الأرض، يخرج منها سارمات بطول يصل إلى 35 مترا ونصف المتر، وزنه يزيد على 208 أطنان، قطره 3 أمتار، وحمولته التدميرية 10 أطنان. مداه بلا نهاية، عابر للفضاء والقارات، يصل إلى أبعد نقطة منذ لحظة إطلاقه خلال ساعة واحدة بسرعة تفوق 15,000 ميل في الساعة للمقذوفات، قادر على حمل 10 رؤوس نووية دفعة واحدة، كل منها يمكن استخدامه ضد هدف مستقل يبعد مئات الكيلومترات عن الهدف الآخر. ويحدث الصاروخ قوة تدميرية تصل إلى 8 ميجا طن من القوة المكافئة للTNT، وهو ما يعادل 400 ضعف قنبلة هيروشيما النووية. صوامع إطلاقه من تحت الأرض لا يمكن رصدها، وهو محمي بمنظومة دفاعية متطورة تستطيع تدمير جميع الصواريخ الموجهة نحوه، ما يجعل تعطيل واعتراض إطلاقه نحو الهدف مستحيلا. كما أن الرادارات والمنظومات الدفاعية للناتو وأمريكا غير قادرة على اعتراضه وإسقاطه بسبب تقنية الصاروخ بالتخفي والمناورة وتنفيذ هجوم مضاد في أي نقطة يكون فوقها. الشيطان النووي الروسي له القدرة على تغيير حمولته إلى رؤوس صاروخية تفوق سرعة الصوت، إضافة إلى الرؤوس المجنحة والحربية حتى 16 رأسا. سارمات RS 28 مرعب بالفعل، ولكنه لا يخرج عن إطار أسلحة الردع الاستراتيجي، فصانعوه يدركون أن استخدامه يعني بحق استيقاظ شيطان الحرب، وعندها يخسر الجميع.